going on, guys? My name is Austin. This is the Bodies in Business podcast. And today we're going to talk about sleep and how you can get amazing sleep. Okay. We're going to have a bunch of different sections in this podcast, and hopefully you maybe learn something new, because I know everyone sleeps and some people are like, I know how to sleep. I know I need to get sleep, but there's a few tips and tricks hopefully you'll take away from this that will help you get better sleep, hopefully, and understand why you sleep a little more. So let's just jump into it right away. Why do we need sleep? All right. And why do we need ample amount of sleep? Usually is around 7 to 9 hours is recommended. Okay. There's a guy named Matt Walker or Shawn Stevenson. These people have books that are super helpful. If you want to read their books, type in their names and you can find the books that they've written. But 7 to 9 hours of sleep is usually the recommended amount of sleep that people should get every night. Okay. I know that's not everybody. And some people will be like, oh, I can go off of 5 or 6 hours of sleep. And some people, for me, I need a solid 7.5 to probably like 9 or 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep. And I feel amazing the next day. But why do we need sleep? Well, we need sleep because it clears adenosine from our brain and body. Sleep pressure, so we feel alert, motivated, and we have energy for the next day. It resets our dopamine receptors, which drive motivation, focus, and effort. It consolidates memory and learning. So REM sleep is huge for that. Okay. And you need to go through a lot of cycles of your sleep cycles in order to get longer amounts of REM sleep. Actually, whoops, I almost knocked over my microphone there. So REM sleep, super important. And like I said, as you go further into the night, your REM cycles or the cycle that is REM sleep actually gets longer throughout the night if you're getting good sleep, which is pretty cool. That's when you get those dreams and stuff like that are very vivid. That's when I know I sleep well, is when I have really good dreams and I can remember those dreams. So I'm always hoping that I dream at night. Anyways, it regulates hormones, cortisol, insulin, growth hormones, testosterone, estrogen. It also strengthens your immune function, repairs tissue and muscle, and then it cleans your brain. The glymphatic system was just found around 2013. And that's pretty crazy because we know a lot about the body. So this was only like 13 years ago that we found that this thing called the glymphatic system basically flushes out your brain of the stuff that it accumulated throughout the day. And it's not like terrible toxins and stuff, but like just things accumulate throughout the day. And this glymphatic system kind of washes all that stuff away and lets you feel really, really amazing. Anyways, so it's just good. I mean, we've all woken up in a new day and had terrible sleep, and you feel like crap, and you feel like, oh gosh, I just don't feel motivated. I don't feel like I have energy, and I'm not in a good mood. And all of those things play huge over a long period of time. So we all think like it used to be thought like 10, 15, 20 years ago that like, oh, sleep is for the weak. Like you don't need sleep. I didn't get sleep for the past 48 hours. Like people used to use it as a badge of honor. And now they're realizing that the lack of sleep actually might play into a lot of cancers or diseases or memory loss and all these other things that are not very helpful to our health. Sleep has become one of probably the most important things to focus on in getting consistently good sleep over a long period of time. Okay, so now let's get into how do we get amazing sleep? Well, it doesn't take, a rocket scientist to figure out these 5 things that you can kind of focus on to help you get better sleep. All right. So one of the first things, which you may not know, but morning sunlight. So when you get morning sunlight, your body, your brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, big word there, it's a big phrase, will tell it tells your internal clock. You see the blue light coming in from the sun. It tells your body to start producing melatonin around 12 to 14 hours after you get that sunlight, which is pretty cool because it basically notifies your body like, okay, I'm awake, I'm ready to go, I'm producing cortisol, all my juices are flowing, all these other things are happening. And then it's also saying, hey, 12 to 14 hours from now, if you got a good night's sleep, maybe you take a nap 4 or 5 hours later because you're super tired. But if not, your body's going to start producing melatonin naturally because it was like, oh, you woke up 12 to 14 hours ago. Now let me get you ready for bed so we can have a great day the next day. The first thing you can do is get morning sunlight to set your circadian rhythm. And what I like to do every morning, usually around 7:30, 7:45, is I go for about a 15-minute to 30-minute walk. All right. And I get outside, I go for a walk, even if it's cloudy outside. Now, it doesn't always occur exactly according to plan, but most days I get outside and go for at least a 15-minute walk. Even if it's for just 5 or 10 minutes, still helpful to set your circadian rhythm. So that's the first thing, is get morning sunlight. The second thing is consistent sleep and wake times. So Matt Walker harped on this in his TED Talk when it was a long time ago, but going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. Now, I know some people have sporadic work schedules or have a newborn or just have kids in general that come wake you up in the middle of the night. Or you're super stressed out at work and you're like, I got to work until 1, 2 a.m. and then wake up at, 7 or 8 the next day. Or people are in college and they go to bed late, they wake up late. Like all these things play into when you go to sleep and when you wake up. The best thing you can do for yourself is to try and go to bed around the same time every night and wake up at the same time every night, or wake up at the same time every morning. And if you can do that, you're actually teaching your body when to get tired and when to be alert and awake. And it helps your body really understand when it needs to be tired and when it needs to be fully engaged and ready to go. And, you really don't understand this. Maybe some people don't understand this until you're actually like getting bad sleep or you can't sleep, because then you start thinking about things like that you can do to get better sleep. So that is one thing that you can really do. Is I try to go to bed around 10 every night and I try to wake up around 7 every morning. Now, there are a couple of days during the week where I actually have to get up at 5:15 to go do a workout for teachers at a school. So there's 2 days during the week where I don't wake up at the same time that I usually do. And it definitely throws me off a little bit. But I still try to go to bed around 10 every night so that my body knows it's time to go to bed. And then I wake up around 7 every morning if I don't have to go to the school to do a workout. And it doesn't have to be perfect every time, but if you can shoot for a consistent sleep time, that's great. All right, so that's number 2. So sunlight's number 1, consistent sleep and wake time is number 2, your sleep environment is number 3. A cold room temperature is actually, is recommended. So from 62 degrees to 68 degrees, like some people, it takes a little more, like they want to be a little warmer when they go to bed, and that's okay. But studies have shown and research has shown that your body actually needs to drop around 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit in order for I was going to say Celsius, but it's Fahrenheit. Your body needs to drop around 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit in order for your body temperature to have really, really deep sleep. All right. We've all been there where we're warm and we can't sleep. And it's because your body temperature has to shut down a little bit. And the colder you are, usually the slower your heartbeat will become. And this is going to help you with deep sleep. Okay. And also you want dark room, really dark room, almost no lights if you can. And I know that's not always possible. Like right now we have like some makeshift curtains in our room and it's not, super dark, but it does the job enough to be dark in the room. And then you also want it to be quiet. I like to have a white noisemaker in my room, which is like almost like a fan. I used to have a fan for like 10 years, but now we have like a white noisemaker. So those three things: temperature, cool temperature, 62 to 68 degrees, as dark as possible, and then also some type of white noise, or it's super quiet in the room, however you like it. All right, that's number 3. Number 4 is you want to do movement during the day because that actually builds up adenosine in your brain and it makes you sleepy throughout the day. And then you build up that sleep debt, or whatever they call, these terms they like to use, sleep debt. And then you actually flush out that adenosine when you go to bed. So exercise increases that sleep pressure, or they say pressure here. And some people, like myself, I actually get sleepy around 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes around 4, and sometimes I take about a 10 to 15 to 20 minute nap, depending on how tired I am. But usually exercise is going to help us get more tired. So if you're not feeling tired at night and you didn't take a nap during the day, maybe adding a little exercise to your daily routine will get you a little more tired at night. Okay, so that's number 4. And then have a pre-bed wind down routine. Okay. And it says about 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed, have something where you're like, okay, I'm going to not watch screens anymore. I'm also going to dim the lights. I'm going to start like preparing myself to go to sleep, because a lot of times if you go from like 100 to 0, it's going to take you a while to get to. So you kind of want to gradually go from 100 to 80 to 60 to 30, all these things. And hopefully my voice is putting you to sleep. Not really. Anyways, so those are the 5 things you can focus on. You got morning sunlight is number 1, consistent sleep times and wake times. Number 3 is sleep environment, cool room, dark room, no noise or white noise. Number 4 is movement during the day. So exercising is really helpful to get you tired at night. And then have a pre-bedtime wind down routine. Okay, so those are the 5 things. Now, what can prevent us from getting great sleep? Okay, some things you need to know that if you're having trouble sleeping, these are some things you can be aware of so that you can understand why you might be getting not so good sleep. First thing, screens at night. Okay. So The screens that we watch usually emit blue light, okay? And blue light activates sensors in our eyes, and it activates a hormone called melanopsin. Melanopsin actually is the opposite of melatonin. And when your body's producing melanopsin, which is waking you up, it's not producing melatonin, as much melatonin. It could be producing way more melatonin at night if you weren't looking at blue screens. And it's very tough to do this because I know for me, I'm looking at my phone or watching TV or looking at my computer probably 90% of the time, 9% of the day. It's going to take some active, it's going to be active on your part to prevent yourself from watching screens at night. I'll just go ahead and be honest. I'll probably watch my phone or screen or TV until about 9:30. And then I try not to, I just have things I want to do after that, as in like use the bathroom, brush my teeth, all these things. And I try not to look at screens while I'm doing that for 30 minutes before bedtime. It doesn't always happen because, sometimes I go to the bathroom and I look at my phone. But if you're going to look at your phone, put it on dark mode and have orange light emitting, and don't try to look at blue light as much as possible at night. So that's number one. Try to prevent blue light. And when you're looking at blue light, actually dopamine in your brain is being produced more. And so you don't have as much. So it's preventing you from producing that melatonin. All right. The next thing, number two, is ingesting caffeine too late can actually keep you awake. And caffeine has a half-life. It actually stays in your body for a long period of time, depending on how much caffeine you ingest. So you want to be careful on how much caffeine I don't take in caffeine, so I can't speak to that. I know some of my friends are like, I can drink a cup of coffee before bed and sleep like a champ. But, if I did that, I would be up all night. But anyways, just be aware that caffeine can stay in your system for a long time. So the rule of thumb that I've heard is like no caffeine after noon, after 12 o'clock p.m. And that's usually a good rule of thumb, but it's up to you to kind of monitor that. Alcohol consumption. I'm not going to get into this too much at all because I don't really drink alcohol, but I've learned from the research that alcohol can actually disrupt your cycles, and you may think you're getting really good sleep when actually you're not getting great sleep. You're not getting that REM sleep. It actually destroys REM sleep because your body actually doesn't allow you to get into REM sleep. It doesn't allow you to do those things. That's number three, chronic stress. This is probably my biggest one that prevents me from getting great sleep a lot of times, is I'm always thinking about things I need to be doing, or just life stress, like relationship stress or family stress and that type of thing. So you need to have, and we'll talk about this later, some protocols in place so that you can try to calm yourself down or relax a lot before or trying to go to bed. All right. And then inconsistent schedules. If you're going to bed at midnight and then you try to go to bed at 9 and then you go to bed at 2 in the morning and then you go to bed at 11, all this sporadic sleep schedules. And I know that's not possible for everyone. Like if you have a baby that's, trying to figure out sleep training, it's almost impossible to get them on a consistent schedule like right away, but it takes time. And then even if you have like really busy schedules at work or anything can be, you have a loved one who's sick and you have to have like turns where you're watching them. Like there's always things that are going to possibly prevent you from going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. But when you do find yourself in times where you can be consistent with your sleep and wake time, take advantage of it or try your best to take advantage of it. And I would say one of the things that I would say that prevents a lot of people, or at least in my point of view, prevents you from going to bed at the same time every night, is we like to have our own time at night, meaning we like a lot of our time during the day is probably other people's time. We go to work, we take care of our kids. I don't have any kids, but we do things for others. And like 80 to 90% of the time, we feel like we're doing stuff for other people. And the only time, a lot of times we feel like we have our own time is at night when we're either watching TV or on our phones and stuff like that. And we want that time to last so long. And we don't want to give up that time. So I have found myself like saying, I'll do a little bit more work, or I'll stay up and watch a little bit more TV with my wife, and I just don't want to go to bed because, I know I have to get up and do this thing in the morning, blah, blah, blah. And I just want my time. But I know that can be something where at night, if you feel like it's your time, it's like, I want to continue to keep my time. But you have to think, okay, if I don't go to bed now, I'm going to be tired in the morning and it's going to cascade down the line. So those 5 things: screens at night, caffeine too late, alcohol, chronic stress, and then inconsistent sleep schedules. Those 5 things can prevent us from getting great sleep. All right. So what can you do? What to do when you can't sleep at night? And I feel like these are helpful. Like I'm going to tell you 2 things that I do when I can't sleep at night. These are right off the top of my head because I use them a lot. Not a lot, but like I find myself using them. One is 4-7-8 breathing. And 4-7-8 breathing is when you inhale through your nose for 4 count, and then you hold it for a 7 count, and you count, and then you exhale through your mouth for an 8 count. Okay, that's 4-7-8 breathing, and you do about 4 or 5 rounds of that. And especially when you're tired, it's supposed to calm your body and calm your heart rate and really relax you. And whenever you're focused on your breath, you're not focused on the other things that you're probably stressed out about. So that's something that is helpful for me when I can't sleep at night, when I'm up and I'm just thinking about a million things, or I just need to calm down. I do 4-7-8 breathing. And then the other thing that is actually I found to be super helpful is I try to replay my day in my head as well as I can to every little description I can think about, from the time I woke up to the time that I'm literally laying in bed. And usually around like mid-morning when I'm going through my head, I fall asleep. Now, it doesn't always happen because my mind sometimes strays away and it will think about like things I need to do tomorrow. But the goal when I'm trying to think about every little detail, as I'm using like a lot of energy in my brain to think about things I've done in the past, so I'm not stressing out about things I need to do in the future because I'm thinking about things I've already done. And that seems to be super helpful for me. Is I'll do some 4-7-8 breathing, and then I'll think about my schedule to the freaking seeing a stick on the ground. And when I do that, it seems like it's like 95% success rate where I fall asleep. There are occasions where I just have so much going on that I'm like, I can't focus. But try to do that. Try to like think about your day from every little detail, from the time you woke up to the time you're laying in bed, and see if that helps you go to bed. And some people will be like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Let me know if that works. Other thing that I don't necessarily do all the time, but is do a body scan and like tense up like your toes, tense up your calves, tense up your quads, and do this all like up the chain, and then let it relax. And then it kind of relaxes your muscles a little bit as you're tense, and then release. And that usually gives you some relaxation. Now, one thing I've actually done a few times and occasionally is if you really can't sleep, get up, get out of bed, go sit on the couch, go sit in a chair somewhere, get out of the place where you can't sleep and get into a place where you're normally awake so that you can get more tired. And that's tough because it's tough to ask yourself to be like, oh, like I should be sleeping. I need to be in bed. Let me just gut through this. I know I'm going to fall asleep. But after about like 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, it's time to get up and try to do something different and try to do something else. I usually give myself around 15 to 30 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes sometimes, to like 4-7-8, and then think about the things that I've done. But after that, I'm like, all right, you need to get up and then try to come back to sleep. So that's number 4. What do you do if you can't sleep at night? Now, this is where I want to talk about power naps. And we're coming to the end of the podcast here because I don't want these things to be too long. If you are having power naps saved my working and athletic career to a certain extent. I remember when I was in school, I was at the Air Force Academy Prep School, and one of the colonels was like, maybe she was lieutenant colonel, but she was like, don't take naps. And I really took that to heart because she was like, you can get so much more done if you don't take naps. And I read this book called The Power of When by Michael Bruce, which I highly recommend everybody reading. And I learned after she said, I didn't read this book until like probably 7 or 8 years ago. When she said, don't take naps, I really took that to heart. I was like, don't take naps. That's going to ruin your sleep at night. Research was done to show that a 10 to 30 minute nap in the afternoon between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. is usually a great time to take a nap if you're super, super tired and you feel like you need some type of boost in energy. And when I read that and I heard that, I was like, man, I'm going to start doing that because I was having really bad tension headaches, and I would wake up at that point in time at like 2 a.m. almost every night, and I couldn't go to bed for like 2 hours. So I was so exhausted the next day, and I would be just out of energy by the time the afternoon rolled around. But I started taking these naps between 1 and 3, or not for the whole time, but like they were 10 to 20 minute naps. And it really, really helped me get through a tough time in my life. And they say that these are really, really good power naps for people that are have newborns, that their sleep's very sporadic, or if your sleep schedule is all over the place because of work, or you're an athlete and you need to just recover a little better. These 10 to 20 minute naps in the afternoon are good. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is you don't want to take a nap too late in the day, because when you take a power nap, it actually clears out your adenosine a lot. And so you don't have a lot of adenosine built up after you take that power nap. So if you take a power nap too close to bedtime, then you might not feel that sleep pressure to go to bed at night. So they say around the sweet spot of, you don't want to take a nap close to 6 hours prior to going to bed, or closer to going to bed. You want to take a nap around like 7 to 8 hours, 9 hours prior to going to bed, because then you're going to build up enough sleep pressure to feel tired enough to go to sleep at night. So when you take a power nap, I want to be very specific, because you want to, just like going to sleep, you want to get in a quiet place where you feel like nobody's going to bother you. I usually turn my phone on airplane mode. I lay down on the ground. I don't get in a bed because I'm not trying to go to sleep. I'm just trying to take a nap. So you could do it in a recliner. You can do it on the floor. I usually try to do it on a yoga mat, and I'll put something behind my head, and I'll do 4-7-8 breathing, and I'll lay there with my palms up, and I'll just focus on my breath. And in about like 30 seconds to a minute, I conk out. And then, and a lot of times for me, I'll lay down sometimes when I'm kind of tired, and I'm like, man, I'm not going to fall asleep, And then literally like a minute, two later, I'm out, and I sleep for like 15, 17, 18 minutes. And then when I wake up, I have so much more energy. It's basically like taking, a drink, it's like drinking a cup of coffee, but you're just taking a little siesta. Now, when I do get great sleep at night, I don't feel like I have to take a nap in the afternoon a lot of times. So that's the balance, right? If you're really getting good sleep at night, it doesn't mean you have to have a nap. If you feel great throughout the day, don't take a nap. And if you're getting great sleep, don't worry about a nap. But if you need a tool that is, instead of just drinking another cup of coffee or 5-hour energy or a caffeinated drink or something, take a nap in the afternoon for 15 or 20 minutes, and you'll wake up with so much more energy. The problem that people run into is when they get too far into a deeper sleep and they wake up and they feel groggy. And they say that if you go past around 30 minutes into that 35, 45 minute to an hour mark, you don't give yourself enough time to go through a full cycle of sleep unless you sleep for an hour and a half. Okay. So that's why it's either 30 minutes or less, or an hour and a half is like kind of recommended, because then you get that full sleep cycle. And you're not waking up in the middle of a deep sleep cycle, which a lot of times if people do that, they wake up and they feel groggy, and they feel like they have less energy, and it takes a longer time for them to actually get back to normal. And then they feel like, oh, naps suck. No. So whenever you take a nap, make sure you're doing it 10 to 30 minutes between that time frame. Still, you want a dark place, you want a quiet place, you don't want distractions. Turn your phone on airplane mode and just relax, breathe, and try to fall asleep. And if you want to go longer, you want to go an hour and a half, do that, and you're more than welcome to. Anyways, it's a tool. I wouldn't rely heavily on the nap. I would rely more on getting great sleep, instead of saying, oh, like I'll just stay up late and I'll just take a nap tomorrow. It's like, no, get the great sleep at night. Sometimes you need both, and just because you're crushing it and you need more rest. So that's it on the naps. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was adenosine. And this is kind of your sciencey biology session. There's this thing called adenosine, okay? Adenosine builds up your brain and body throughout the day because our bodies burn this burn this molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So when we eat food, our body breaks all that food down, and it, in the lowest form possible, is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. When your body burns that ATP, it actually has a byproduct of adenosine. Just like when a car burns actual fuel, gasoline, and carbon dioxide is the byproduct. Adenosine is the byproduct of ATP, and adenosine is what makes us sleepy. And so that's something to realize, is like, that's why exercise can be beneficial in making you sleepy, because you burn more ATP and you have more adenosine in your body that's going to make you more sleepy, right? And that's just something fun to know, because it's like, oh, like there is a chemical that is making me sleepy. I don't just fall asleep because, there's some magic thing that happens. It's like, no, adenosine is the molecule making you sleepy. And one funny thing about adenosine is caffeine actually blocks the adenosine receptors from the adenosine to attaching the adenosine to those receptors. And that's why caffeine can make us feel more awake, more alert, is because they actually fit into those adenosine receptors and block the adenosine from attaching to those adenosine receptors and make us sleepy. So that's why caffeine's so effective. It prevents adenosine from attaching to those receptors. So that's it. I think that was hopefully very helpful. I thought like understanding adenosine, understanding what causes good sleep and prevents us from getting good sleep can be super helpful, especially if you're not getting good sleep. It's something where you usually don't care about sleep until you're not getting good sleep. And then you're going to want to know these things and you're going to be like, okay, how can I implement this stuff in order to get great sleep? All right. And also you learn something new every day. There's a lot of good books out there. Matt Walker wrote a book called Why We Sleep. Shawn Stevenson wrote a book called Sleep Matters. And then Michael Bruce wrote a book called The Power of When. I highly recommend going to watch those or listen to or read those 3 books because they give great information on sleep and why we sleep and how we can get better sleep, because sleep is a miracle drug and we should all be doing it the best we can so that we can be as productive as possible and be our best selves the next day. Because emotionally, you want to be at the top of your game and you want to have motivation, you want to have dopamine. And yeah, I'm just going to stop there because that's it. That's all I got. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I find learning more about the body very helpful for myself. So I hope you found that very helpful. Get some great sleep tonight. Implement some of these things. Oh, the last thing I want to say is like, your sleep's not going to automatically turn around just after 1 night or 2 nights or 3 nights. It takes time. It takes a week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5. It takes, 3 months, 4 months. It takes a long time to get in a good rhythm. So like, don't think just because you do these things 1 or 2 days and it doesn't maybe work perfectly, that it's not going to work at all. It just takes time. And it's an equation that you kind of have to figure out if you're trying to navigate how to get great sleep. You can implement these things over time and continue them and figure out what works best for you, when to drink caffeine, when not to drink caffeine, how cold you want the room, all these things. And there's a lot of just information out there that can help with sleep. And in general, sometimes we just need to do less and think about less and relax and take a deep breath. So if you appreciated that, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. And yeah, that's all I got. Get after it.